Hey everyone, Sari here, and welcome back to another week of late season offense matches. This week got split between a couple of teams. Celsius and Guinevere are their usual reliable selves. While I didn't quite talk myself into committing to a new build for Celsius this week, his close defense skill set is very useful for handling bonus weak notes. Bonfire tends to outpace Black Luna thanks to the extra defense, and Slick Fighter lets him shrug off any debuffs that actually find him. Guinevere, as usual, is an extremely effective ranged specialist. Attack Speed Unity lets her take advantage of those bonus weak notes, and Bright Shrines, while her post-combat healing helps keep both her and Celsius healthy across multiple combats. It also lets her reliably use Miracle, especially since her damage output is high enough that she doesn't need a damaging special to secure knockouts. As usual, I also keep one of the teams for a Null Sea Disrupt build for Guinevere as well, letting her pick the right tools for whatever defenses they run into. The Beast Force team also got a slight adjustment, switching Ash's push skill for Fury. While it does lower her damage output a bit, it also means that she doesn't have to worry as much about bolt traps turning off some stats, and occasionally it helps her get into doing some mercy range too. Having Azur as a bonus unit is also really helpful, offering a second dance for the team to work with. Now that we've gone over the teams, let's get to the first match. This match will be a neat way to start the week, with a return to Guinevere and Celsius. It's been a while since I let them take the spotlight. This is a bit of a mixed cav line with a legendary Lena headlining their team. She's definitely the main threat, although this plus 10 Eliwood can definitely secure knockouts if you're underestimating him. He still does a lot of work on my anima defense, so they're backing those up with a legendary Tiki who's in season, and she's a pretty capable far-save unit, especially in weeks without Naga, to kind of neutralize her as a dragon type on an enemy team. The bonus weak note, even if she doesn't have a seal, can also be pretty hard to handle if you're not careful, and Hell in the back is just mostly there to provide extra stats. Not using Mystic Boost Seal is a little odd for her, and also not using Luna or Moonbow, but she does still boost the stats on the team and helps mitigate lift loss as well. I don't expect Gwyn and Celsius to have too many difficulties with this, although we are going to need to take a turn to spins out before we get going.
It will be done.
I'm a little worried about this bolt trap and would rather not have it explode on Gwyn and Celsius if it was real, which it's not. But that's okay.
I'll keep you alive.
From here, we'll just swap Ash over to the right. I was planning to have Azur break this and then move into this position if it was a real trap, but
looks like it's my
not.
turn.
So we can just dance her with Azur instead, and have
I
her
bestow
jump
my
past
blessing.
Ash to isolate not really anything for this next turn. And we'll have
Maybe
Peony
this
move
way.
over in space.
Very well.
Guinevere jump all the way past her, and say go. The safe defense means that we don't have to worry about their first turn here. And we can use this one to move into position.
We
From
must
here, we'll
end
move into
this.
position. We'll just let Guinevere open things up a little bit.
I do not know.
Oopsie.
What's your
And
plan?
Celsius jump over here so he can get a set of
So
buffs from
fun!
Azur as well. I'll dance Guinevere and have Azur stay put,
Are you certain?
while Gwyn moves forward and breaks another flag.
Ready.
Then we dance Celsius
Your orders.
to move her in behind, or move him in behind her and keep her safe from Eliwood and Note. Then we
Truly?
can even have Ash rally Peony to ruse them and make them a little
Like
easier
this.
to knock out, while Milla moves up here. And then we say go. Since there aren't any rallies on the team, nothing really crazy happens here. It should just be a pretty straightforward down the health chain. Lena moves in first, and she has a red mage attacking Guinevere, and that's never going to end well for her. And the same goes for Sigurd. 50% damage reduction is a lot, but it only gets you so far. Then I think Note should move in next. Yep. But she actually gets outsped pretty heavily by
One
Zelgius.
will live, one will die.
Even in her bonus week, since Close Defense knocks out her Menace skill and stops her from getting a bonus stun on. And useful.
No draw, no escape.
He outspeeds Zelgius pretty easily too. Nobody else reaches us from there. From here we just want to make sure we grab these Aether pots before the end of the match, and Tiki would be the easiest one to leave alive until we do that, since she can't move more than one space. So we're going to just start by having Guinevere pick up one pot.
I'll keep you
Zelgius
alive.
It looks
It's
like
another
it's
fake
my
trap.
turn.
Then we'll dance Guinevere,
Are you
and move
certain?
her over here, and not attack Hell, since that would actually just get Tiki.
It will be
Then we can smite Zelgius forward to keep Guinevere safe from both Edelgard and Hell.
I do
Then
not
we'll just
object.
move Ash forward
Ready.
and dance Milla, who can let Morr up
Like
here,
this.
and make sure they're buffed for next turn. Hell does get healed up here, but I'm not worried about it, since she's never going to survive Zelgius, and even if Edelgard can
One
survive
will
this
live,
bonfire,
one will die.
with one hit point to spare, Gale Force means that she's never going to do damage to him.
No draw, no escape.
And well, once she's that low, it's easy enough to finish her off. And Hell's not really any problem after that.
Let's see how you handle this.
And then we're all out of range of Tiki.
I bestow
And
my
from there, it's pretty
blessing.
easy to clean things up. We do have to smite Guinevere, thanks to this tactic room,
Very well.
but that's not such a hard
What's
thing
your
to do.
plan?
Zelgius can break the tactic room,
Maybe
Condensing.
this way.
Your
and let him
orders.
finish off Tiki.
One will live, one will die.
It's a nice way to close out the first match of the week. Let's see what we get next. This match is going to be a fun one. Back to the Beast Force team. They've got a neat setup here that actually includes an Ashe on their defense team, which isn't something I've seen yet, and can, I think, really easily throw people off, since they might not be used to playing against her warp effect, which gives Fjorm a lot of extra mobility, and lets Note potentially just jump past this throne and reach anybody standing on the other side of it. We're backing this up with an out-of-season legendary Seeker, who's still a menace with a pre-charged Holy Knight aura, and threatening this tile is a bit tricky since I keep my safety fence in the corner here and it doesn't quite reach this, so this would activate the map if somebody's standing here on the first turn. And combined with Note and Pathfinder, he can give Corrin a lot more threat range on the right side of the map than someone might expect. Having 3 duos on their team does a lot of work for keeping their hindrance online in case someone's trying to just snipe an enemy before using their duo skills. And Lyn and Corrin are both very threatening on their own, even though they're not being covered by this Fjorm, which leaves them a bit vulnerable to being sniped by a ranged unit. Or a melee, since they don't have any traps on their front line either. There are a lot of attack buffs too, coming in on their team thanks to the duo Peony and Ashe, whose joint drive attack is something people might overlook, which makes it a bit trickier than it might normally be to get a heavy blade check on this Corrin, or on Note. I think we should be able to pull this off though. It's going to take a turn just to move into position and clear up the front of this a little bit, but we should be able to manage it without too many problems. I'm going to start by letting Milla open this up,
Good
and
morning.
then dancing her to move down here below Ashe.
I do not object.
Ashe can open up this cake, and we'll have Edelgard move down this tile and move Floria over. Azura is just going to break this Bright Shrine and then Kanto back into the corner to avoid getting sniped by Sigurd, and Safety Fence locks out the first turn. From here, I'm going to use Edelgard to reposition Ash forwards,
Ready.
then Denser to enable orders for everybody on the team.
I bestow my
We'll
blessing.
spike Valoria forward as well, and then we can get things started by having Edelgard one-shot Lyn. From there, we're going to let Ash warp past her to knock out Corrin and secure her own Gale Force. Which lets Edelgard warp past her and one-shot the Seeker. And then warp one more time to finish off Note. Moving Note out of that tile also lets Valoria warp in to just barely one-shot Ash. And actually not secure this Heavy Blade check. I wasn't quite doing the math there, so I guess the lull into weapon was a bit too much for Ash to get past.
I do not object.
It's okay, she can tank a hit from Peony without too many problems since she's at full health, and Ash can just finish off Fiorm here. And then we'll have Azura move up and say go. No. Peony can take a swing, but it's not too threatening. And then we'll have Ash break one pot, Edelgard break the other one,
That's funny.
and let Valoria actually activate Gale Force at the end of the map. That was a fun clear. We had quite a few extra actions to work with too. Let's see what we get next. This match is going to be a bit different. They've got a unique collection of units on their defense team, with several that I don't really see too often, including this Nami, and a Gatekeeper, who is actually the reason I'm not going to be Gale Forcing this. He's surprisingly effective at shutting that down just by shutting down the ability to warp into position in an area around him. They also have a Yuri on their defense, which is pretty rarely seen too. I think he can be pretty annoying with the right setup and can definitely mess with your plans if he just gets to foul play his allies around the field. And a Happy, who I've seen a few of over the last few weeks, but she's still pretty rare to see. Very strong though at getting that one shot on a beast or dragon. And then they're rounding out their team with a collection of mythics to boost their stats and help mitigate lift loss with this bonus week note. They have some odd skill choices here, like this Home Dragons and a Red Tome Breaker on Nami. And Close Counter and Steady Stance Bremland is an interesting choice, especially with Aether as a special. I'm not really expecting us to have problems with this match, so it should be a pretty straightforward one overall. I'm just going to get things started right away. We'll have Milla open things up
Very well.
with Guinevere's help. Azura is just going to dance Guinevere and get her a spectrum of buffs before cantoing into place over here.
I do not
Now
object.
move Ash this way. Actually, somehow forgot that I hadn't opened this wall up yet, but that's okay.
Ready.
Peony can do that from here anyway. And then we'll just move Guinevere up here, open up the second Aether pot,
What's your
and move Zelgius over, and let Guinevere tank her way through all of the ranged except Gatekeeper. Fury moves first here. He can do a chunk of damage,
Better accept it.
but it's not enough to take Guinevere down. And he's also the one who can do the most damage to her on their entire team. Bram moves in next. Can do some damage. More than normal thanks to the dagger debuff. But it's still not really enough to threaten Guinevere on his own. I think Nami should move in next here. Oh no, it's Happy. Interesting.
You should run.
still not quite enough to punch through Gwyn. They're getting close to actually forcing the miracle, though. But I don't think Naimi's going to manage that here. Nope, not quite. And the other two can't reach us, and they don't have a dancer for Gatekeeper.
Very well.
Well, at this point, we may as well just let Guinevere close things out on her own, taking advantage of this miracle to survive Note and finish her off. Then we can just ruse the remaining defenders with Ash.
Maybe this
Just dance
one.
Guinevere
Are you certain?
for having her move up and one-shot Sothis. Gatekeeper's never going to threaten her, especially when she's in range of Peony. And then we can just have Selgius move in behind her,
It will be done. Looks like it's my
and
turn.
have Azura get her across for res for good measure. And with all of that going for her, Gatekeeper just doesn't quite have anything he can do. And down he goes. That's a fun match. It's always nice to see Guinevere flex a bit. Let's see what we get next. This match will be a fun Guild Force clear. They've got a pretty neat setup here, including several legendaries. All of them in season, including a very bulky legendary Ephraim with his remixed Flame Segment and his Solar Brace. Also a remixed Robin, who's +7, and is similarly really bulky and hard to Gale Force on with most options, thanks to the combination of Guard and Dull Spectrum from her Dragon Skin and all the +10 stats she gets. That helps a lot with that as well. And the rain stacking, combined with Dorothea and Claude, can really add up if you're not careful and keeping track of them. Triandra too. The chills from Dorothea can also really mess with you if you're not tracking which one goes where. And Leaf is always a menace, as is Claude if you're trying to enemy phase him. It's a pretty neat team overall. I don't think we'll have too many problems with this. It should be a pretty straightforward-ish Gale Force clear, as much as Gale Force clears are straightforward. We're going to take this first turn, thanks to the safety fence, to just open up this front line of structures and give ourselves some space to work with.
Ready.
Peony's going to jump all the way over here to open this up, while
Truly?
Ash opens this up.
What?
Adel moves down here,
Okay.
and Floria moves over. And then
So
Zara is
fun.
just going to pretty much stay in this corner thanks to the tactic room and watch the fight. From here, we're going to take some elaborate warp shenanigans to get everybody into
Good
position.
morning.
Edelgard can start by flipping Ash forwards and getting danced by Peony,
Like
which
this.
lets Milla warp down here and smite Gloria forwards. And then we can get going. Edelgard's going to start by knocking out Triandra. And that position should let Ash move in and take down Robin. We don't one-shot her, but that's okay. Ash's guaranteed follow-up is pretty useful. Okay. And Ash's new position lets Gloria warp all the way up here and knock out Claude for her own Gale Force. And then we'll have Ashe step forward and take down No. She doesn't quite break through the damage reduction here. It's not her bonus week, and it's not something supported either, so... It's okay though.
Yes.
In that position lets Edelgard warp over here and take a shot at Ephraim. He's going to get to heal a bit after this, thanks to his B skill.
Yes.
And then she can warp again all the way past Ashe and Gloria to box in Leaf and knock out Dorothea, which doesn't have 14 damage to Ephraim. And that should let Gloria move over here and finish him off. And Leaf can't reach us, so that's the end of the turn. From there it's pretty easy to just pick up both of the Aether pods,
Lord Asker, guide us.
Out of my
and
way.
then close out the match. That was a fun one to plan out. This map is going to be a really fun one. They have a pretty effective cav line set up here with a Lysithea and a Harmonic Leaf, both with guard, and a Yuri, who's basically a horse, thanks to his weapon, and an Ascended Lycaern. Even without merges, this team is really heavily invested to make it something that you don't want to try and tank. The Fortified Defense and Home Cavalry from Leaf combine to make it very hard to turn Lycaern's weapon offline, and when she has that working, she hits very hard. The infantry pulses from Note and from Sylvia also enable Yuri's lethality, which makes him another very hard to tank unit, along with Lysithea being her usual self and Leaf being an annoying unit to try and actually knock out the enemy phase. This colorless feud is actually really annoying for anyone who's relying on colorless units. The Even Pulse tie on Sylvia is another fun touch and can help disarm any Fjorms with their hardy fighters. And the Torrent Dance, assuming she uses ground orders here to dance Lycaern with it, is a good way to almost max out the bonus stats she gets from her weapon. The attack speed A or D skill on Yuri is another really nice touch, since it makes it very hard to actually successfully heavy blade check him, even if you do get a Gale Force unit to attack him, and just makes him hit incredibly hard if he gets to swing. I don't think Special Spiral's the best option for him here, though. It doesn't actually reset lethality after he attacks, assuming he one-shots his opponent. And a different skill like Guard, actually, the way they have on Lysithea and Leaf, would probably help him out a little bit more than that. This match actually took me quite a while to plan out, and it was a little annoying, just because of how well placed these structures and traps are, and how annoying it is to get through these guard effects without a refine for Floria. We'll get them eventually, but until then, we just have to make do. I'm going to take this first turn to take advantage of our safety fence and test this trap, which is real. Okay.
Looks like it's
That's
my
fine.
turn.
Azura can just dance Valoria and then Kanto back into this corner.
What do you want?
And then I'll have Valoria move all the way down here.
Out of my
Edelgard's
way.
going to jump over Ashe,
Really?
and then we'll have Ashe move into this corner.
Like this.
Front wall moves out of the way to make sure we stay in this safety fence range.
What do
From
you
here,
want?
things are going to get a little bit more complicated. We're going to start by having Valoria reposition Ashe forwards. And
I
then we're going
bestow my
to smite
blessing.
Edelgard over to the left,
Yes.
which lets her jump all the way up here and one-shot Lysithea. The guard does stop her from getting 2 charges towards her Gale Force here, but that's okay.
Good
Next,
morning.
we'll dance Valoria, which gives Ashe a warp that she can use to jump past Edelgard and Gale Force off of Yuri. Then we'll have Valoria start moving up,
So
and
fun.
Azura can dance her. And then we're going to have Edelgard spend 2 actions taking down Note. This part's important since, while she doesn't knock Note out, Note's counterattack actually enables her Gale Force and lets her finish Note off. And from there,
That's funny.
we can have Valoria warp all the way over here and Gale Force off of Lagurum. And then her position lets Ashe warp past her, while she moves into position here and locks out their team. From here, we can clean things up and have Ashe one-shot Leaf. His weapon doesn't let him hear if he's defending against a melee opponent. And that opening should let Valoria move in and Gale Force off of Sylvia. You can't quite finish her off with this move though.
Out of my
And then we'll
way.
have Edelgard pick up the Aether pods,
I do not know.
What?
and let Valoria close out the match. That was a fun one to plan out. Very touch and go. Let's see what we get next. This match will be a fun one for Gwen and Zelgius to pick apart near the end of the week. It's a little tricky to handle. It's not too often that you see Gatekeeper on defenses, so I think he might start becoming a little more popular now that Ashe exists on late seasons. But he does a really good job of shutting down Gale Force strategies, and the in-combat benefits he provides to his allies are pretty substantial and can definitely tip a fight in their favor if someone's not planning around them. The rest of the team is full of some familiar faces, with the 2 different Leafs and a young Marshall, along with this Niffle, who's actually quite a pain for Zelgius specifically. The combat penalties she applies to him, along with a lot of speed stacking with the ARD skill, the Worm, and her Domain of Ice, means that she can actually outspeed him, and as a blue dragon, hitting his res, can do quite a bit of damage as well. And of course the flash effect can really make follow-up attacks pretty awkward, if that he has to actually worry about those follow-up attacks. Note doesn't really matter too much to him, even in her bonus week, and Guinevere shouldn't have too hard a time handling the rest of this, especially if we isolate Triandra and Niffle to make sure that this pre-charged Luna on Leaf never goes off, which is what we're planning to do here. I'm actually going to get things started right away.
Are
We're
you
going to
certain?
have Guinevere test this trap. It's real, it's fine.
I
Azura
do not
can
know.
dance her and then Kanto down, which will actually offer Zelgius a bit more res in combat thanks to the cross spur.
It
And
will
from
be
here
done.
we'll just have no wait in place, which
Ready.
lets Peony dance her and give Zelgius an Order's buff.
I
Ashe
cannot
too,
object.
which
Truly?
lets Ashe warp down here and rally Azura, and apply a guard effect to Niffle, which is pretty important. Zelgius doesn't want to tank that move.
Like this.
And we'll smite Peony over to the left,
We must
and
end
move
this.
Guinevere forward,
What's
with
your plan?
Zelgius in behind her to keep her safe. From here, I think the first thing that's actually going to happen is Gatekeeper attacks. Well, the combination of Follow-up Denial when she's using Multi-Disrupt, and the damage reduction that he gets from Niffle, means he actually survives this combat. Barely, but he still survives. La Rochelle heals, and then we can start moving down the chain. Nifl can do a chunk of damage, but if she can't finish Zelgius off, then she's not going to survive the second bonfire either. This does mean that Note's also going to survive this burn, since
One will live, one will die.
Zelgius isn't going to get to counterattack her. But that's okay. She's not that big of a problem for us. And we'll get to knock out Triandra, and Leaf after that. And all the way on, Zelgius just starts getting patched up, thanks to Guinevere's healing. It's always nice when Fatal Smoke doesn't completely shut Guinevere down. This wasn't quite as clean as some of the Gwyn and Zelgia's first turns as I have, but it's a pretty manageable state for us to work with. Guinevere can just start things off by knocking La Rochelle out and taking the healing off the table. And without La Rochelle, their threat range gets cut down to a much more manageable level. We do want to make sure we can reach these Aether pots before the end of the match though, so what we're going to do is move Ashe forward here and dance her, which lets her jump to the other side of Nilla, while Nilla moves over here to bait Gatekeeper. Nothing else can reach her here, so Gatekeeper will take the self-preservation route and attack Nilla instead of either Gwyn or Zelgius, while Leaf attacks into Guinevere and Note gets herself knocked out by Zelgius. Gatekeeper moves in, but Nilla's got enough res that he's just not going to be able to do anything to her. And while Leaf does hit Gwyn's defense, she's bulky enough to take that hit and one-shot him twice in return. And then Note attacks into Zelgius again and, well, still does nothing, but this time he can counter and knock her out. And now with just Gatekeeper left, there's not too much more left to do on this map other than picking these Aether pots up. Sadly, this one in the top right's a little out of reach for this turn, so we're just going to pin Gatekeeper in place and take an extra turn to reach them.
Are you certain?
Guinevere can move up here. Zelgius can move into position here.
Like this.
We'll break this.
Truly?
Ashe back over here.
So fun!
Dance Ashe. Canto back away from Gatekeeper.
I do not object.
And Ashe will sit on this real bolt trap.
Maybe
We'll just start moving towards Aether pots with the rest of us. With Peony. Here we can have Ashe move up this way, since in this position, Guinevere can actually warp away from the Gatekeeper to pick up this Aether pot.
It will
We'll
be
have
done.
Guinevere move down this way,
So fun!
dance her,
Like this.
and smite Peony up to pick up the second pot.
Maybe this way.
I'll keep you
Let's
alive.
have Zelgius close out the match.
Say your prayers.
That was a fun one to plan out. Let's see what we get next. This match is going to be a fun rematch near the end of the week. They've got a pretty cool team here with a Nifl and, well, frontlining their team, along with this Morr as a far-safe bodyguard. This frontline's actually extremely hard to break, thanks to the combat debuffs from Hell if you're trying to snipe Morr, and the damage reduction that Nifl offers them both if you're trying to attack them from the easily accessible locations. It's also pretty resilient to Gale Force strategies thanks to Hell usually taking at least 2 actions to knock out, and Peony offering some very high attack bonuses to Morr and Sniffle, which makes heavy blade checks pretty difficult to actually secure, especially against Morr with a 20 attack point swing from her weapon alone. Ketri also makes this a pretty dangerous team to try and just tank, even though she doesn't affect Sniffle. These are not units that you want to attack you with triangle attack, especially as Lysithea, with her Rally Trap and Lull and colorless feud. It's a pretty spooky team overall. I think though the most annoying part of this to me was trying to plan this out and realizing that this tactic room actually stops me from being able to Gale Force this before the Bolt Tower fires, which kind of cheapens the entire thing a bit, but oh well. Bolt Tower bonus weeks are unavoidable, I guess.
Good morning.
We're going to take this first turn to pick up one of these
I
pods
bestow my blessing.
and start working our way up into position.
Okay.
We'll just move Luria up and have Ash
So fun.
move up here and take out another structure.
Lord Asker, guide us.
And then from here, we're going to have Edelgard break the Stark Shrine, and then reposition her back down. While Peony jumps past Milla,
Like
we'll have
this.
Milla move over here.
Looks like it's my turn.
That's her.
It
Move
will
her
be
into place
done.
to pick up the second pot next turn. Isolating Peony means that even if she wasn't going to stay in place to dance from there, she would never be able to start this map anyway. From
Like
here,
this.
we're going to start things off by having Milla pick up this second Aether pot, which will let us close out the match this turn. Ash will flip Valoria forwards and then
I
get
do
danced
not
by
know.
Azura, who can move over here, and then
What?
Edelgard can jump all the way past her to one-shot Hell. One of the few ways Edelgard can actually beat Hell, with a Bolt Tower bit of help.
Out
And
of
then
my
we'll have her
way.
march on forwards to knock out Niffle.
Yes.
And then take out the major source of attack support before heavy blade checks start going in.
Lord Asker,
Ash
guide
should
us.
be able to secure a heavy blade on Morr without Peony boosting her to some extreme levels. And that forward position lets Valoria move in and take down Note.
I do
Before
not
Ash
doubt.
warps in and takes out Lysithea. And then finally
What do you
Valoria
want?
closes out the match. That was a fun one to plan out. This match will be a fun way to close out the week. It's actually a rematch with one of the people on the Discord. Solar's got a really impressive maxed out Yuri on his defense team. And this infantry pulse chain is really something special since it enables a Deadeye for Crom, an Iceberg for Rhea, a Miracle for Sothis, along with the Luna for Yuri and a Mimbo for Note. It's really well set up, and I think the only thing that might cause it to be a little off is Sothis' bonus weeks, when she'd be at a higher health total than Note. But this is really hard to crack open. Sothis stacking all of this res and speed with Miracle makes her extremely hard to knock out in one hit, and very hard to double, especially with the speed support she's getting from her allies and defense. Crom, meanwhile, is a horrifying menace to try and tank with a pre-charged Deadeye, and just annoying to try and plan around with Change Fate, And Rhea on the other side with a Dragon Wall and Fallout Prevention can also be really hard to engage on. I'm not actually sure which one of these traps is real and what the level is. I don't think it's a 50 damage bolt trap, since that would disable Sothis' Miracle if it's here, and if it's over here that might make it a little too easy to engage into Rhea. But I think I've planned this out so that I don't need to worry about whether or not it's a real trap or a 50 damage trap at all. I'm going to take one turn to set this up before we engage, since this isn't a dense trap, with Rhea all the way over here and Berkut unable to reach her. Which means that it's totally safe to just take our time approaching this. I also don't really want to use the Bolt Tower for this, since I do feel that it cheapens the clear a bit, and this time I shouldn't actually have to let the Bolt Tower go off before we clean this out.
Out of my way.
I'm just going to clear out this bottom right corner and move into position with that in mind.
I bestow my blessing.
Maybe.
And while I won't be letting Ashe transform here, it shouldn't matter since there aren't any guard effects to worry about, so I don't have to need her to punch through those. So to start this, we're actually going to have Ashe flip Valoria forwards, and then
Looks like
dance
it's my
Ashe
turn.
before Zora Kento's back out of the way.
Like this.
Then we're going to smite Ashe onto this bolt trap, which is real, and it's not 50 damage.
What?
I wanted to make sure it wouldn't disable Edelgard's Gale Forces and Special Fighter. And
Good
then
morning.
we'll have Peony move in and dance Milla,
I bestow
who
my
will now
blessing.
smite at Edelgard forwards. And now we can get started.
Truly?
Ashe will be able to take out Sothis, who actually can't quite do any damage to her, even though she's targeting Ashe's res. And Ashe's guaranteed follow-up means that we don't have to worry about beating a speed check in order to double her. From there, we're going to have Edelgard start rampaging through their team and softening up all of the rest of the targets. Katri is a pretty easy first knockout.
Out of my
And
way.
with Crom this low, well, even without being this slow, he'd be a pretty easy follow-up. And
Yes.
then she can move over one more tile and finish off Rhea. Then we'll give Valoria some of the action and let her Gale Force through Berkut. Before moving up and finishing off Note. And that leaves Ashe with a free action to pick up our first bot. And since Yuri can't get out of his corner, there's not much he can do. So to close this out, we'll just let Edelgard pick up the second Aether pot,
Lord, ask her
and then have Ashe move in and finish off Yuri. It was a fun match to plan out and clear. It's really cool to run into someone from the Discord. It was another really fun week overall. It's always fun to actually run into somebody that I know from the Discord, and it was really good to see the Beast Force team doing so well. I'm probably going to make them a staple of Flight seasons going forward. Even if they don't show up all the time, they'll probably always get a team slot to work with. Next week should be fun too. I'm expecting to give Fallen Ike a bit of a return to the spotlight, thanks to the bonus week duo Crom, and see if we can get some Unity stacking shenanigans going, and potentially some other silly stuff as well. I do have a Discord channel, there's a link in the description if you'd like to hang out and chat, and there's also a Patreon link in there if you'd like to help support the channel. As always, I hope you've enjoyed the video, good luck with your own matches, and I'll see you next time.